Hey guys, welcome to Torch Tales, Stories Behind the Hood, where we talk to friends in the industry about their path and past before they got into the industry. And as you can see, before I introduce my guest, which most of you will know if you are in the industry, and if you don't, well, now you will. Here we are in Pennsylvania at one of the waterfalls, and so far we've visited 3 of them. My special guest today is John Ospina, the president of GAWDA.
Executive Director.
See, this is exactly why I let them tell me what they are, because I always messed up. And I'm very honored to have you, John, for many reasons. One is because I think you are a cool dude, very humble, and I think your path to this industry, which I stumbled into 12 years ago, and I don't see myself doing anything else now because of the relationships and friendships that I've built, like yourself. I'm very grateful, and again, thank you for being here, John. Here we are for one of the regional meetings for GAWDA, the 7 Springs, which is always a big draw. John, thank you again for being here.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
Yeah, so far, John and I have been doing this waterfall sightseeing here in beautiful Pennsylvania, and this is the 3rd one. In fact, this is kind of like the baby one, not much water going on. And I said, hey, John, why don't we do it here? And he was game, and here we are. John, there's a lot of stuff I know about you already, because we've talked here and there, and so some of the questions might be the same, so I'll try to rephrase them in a way where the answer is different from what I already know from you.
All right.
And again, guys, I always say the same thing. I'll interrupt my guest because one answer might take me somewhere else, and sorry, it is what it is. I just get excited, right? Where are you from, John?
Originally, I was born in Bogota, Colombia, but I grew up in New York City.
Was that your parents' decision? They just said, we're leaving Colombia, and...
Yep, immigrated here when I was 4 years old.
4?
Yeah.
Were your parents already, they knew about the U.S.? Did they live in the U.S. before, and you just happened to be born in Colombia, or it was just like like most stories, most immigrants just looking for a better future?
That's what it was.
Really?
Yeah. They had never been here before. They just sold everything they had back in Colombia, moved to New York City, and started a new life.
Wow, what part of New York?
Queens,
Queens.
Astoria.
See, one of the things that I find is that most of the time, when you meet people from New York, they learn to be very in your face and hey, let's go, and I think you are one of those. We are New Yorkers. Maybe it's because you left very young, but you are. I've always tagged you, and I'm sorry that I have, like a introverted, extroverted. Like you have that combination of when you need to be, you are very social, very friendly, but also like you love to be, I don't know, what's the word I'm looking for? Like at first value, someone might meet you and say, oh, John is quiet, or on the quieter side, not like most typical New Yorkers. Is that something that you've always been that way? You just kind of acquire that MO?
I've always been a little shy, a little reserved.
Really?
So that's just the way my personality kind of develops. So, but like you said, whenever I need to get myself out there, I have no problem doing that either.
Yeah, I know. I mean, and definitely, and we'll touch on what GAWDA is, which again, John runs GAWDA, and he'll explain a little bit more on that is. And I'm lucky enough to be part of the organization in some level. Now you come to Florida when you were how old again? 12?
No, to New York when I was 4 years old.
Okay.
Grew up in New York until, I left New York when I was 27.
27?
Yeah.
Oh, all right. So what did you do before when you were 27? I mean, I hope, or I'm thinking that you already had a job or were doing something to earn some money. So what were you doing there?
So in New York, I was in the banking industry. Used to work for Chase. Used to do auditing for them, and started off in collections when I was in my early 20s.
That's always fun.
Yeah, that was not the path I really wanted to go down.
I can imagine. I know quite a few people in collections, and oh my God, they're never too happy. Now, you come to Florida at 27. What do you start doing here in Florida? And first of all, did you come by yourself or with a family?
I came by myself.
By yourself?
Yeah.
You just kind of looked at the map and said, Florida seems like a good place.
I had a friend and my brother had moved down to Miami.
Okay.
So I knew a couple of people, decided to come down, had saved enough money in New York to buy a condo in Miami. And in those days, they were very, very cheap.
Wow. So here you are at 27 and you're already thinking I should buy, and most of us are not thinking that, especially when you're single. Or, well, I don't know if you were single.
I was single.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
27, already thinking about buying. Kudos to you, because I don't know what I was thinking when I was 27. So you are here, well, you're there, South Florida, 27, you buy a place. And did you already have a job then?
Yes, I had been recruited by the University of Miami to work in their registration and bursars office.
Okay.
So I did that for a little while. Again, not exactly the path I saw myself going down, but then I got a job with the American Welding Society as the accounting manager.
Okay, so here we go. Now we're kind of starting into the industry. AWS, American Welding Society. You know, most of you that will watch this know exactly what that is. How did you get that job with AWS?
Just like every young kid, just jumping jobs until you find something that fits you.
So now you go to the accounting at AWS?
Right.
And at that point, you had no idea what welding or this industry was, did you?
No, I had first not-for-profit that I have ever worked for.
Really?
So
it's a combination of everything new at that point.
yeah.
And you are at AWS. How long before you go to GAWDA, and did you move ranks through AWS before you came into GAWDA?
Oh yeah, I did a lot of moving around at AWS.
Really?
So I was very lucky to have a lot of really great mentors at AWS. One of them was a gentleman by the name of Mr. Davis that used to run the AWS welding show, Tom
Okay.
Davis. And he took me under his wing.
AWS welding show, sorry, I told you I do this. FabTech?
No, this was when the AWS welding show was a standalone show.
All right, the reason why I asked is because I wanted you guys to know that there was a difference in FabTech then came along, and the relationship, became what it is now known today. So now you're running the welding show, or helping to run the welding show.
Yeah, I was an assistant director of operations. I got promoted to that. I used to run the registration. I used to help with the floor plan. I used to help with sales. So I got involved in every aspect of the trade show industry.
And so that meant that you were also traveling to these locations, or
Yes.
yeah?
Yeah. And these were the days where you did floor plans by hand. There was no computer generated stuff at that time. So I take that back. There were computer generated floor plans, but they were done by Freeman or one of those
Somebody
general
else, not-
service
yeah.
contractor.
Yeah. Yeah, I can imagine. And I think, we were talking about, the old days versus the new days, and something that we touched earlier when we were actually coming to this location, and we're looking at the GPS, how easy it is to do things nowadays compared to when I started in sales, that I used to do a roadmap and find my way, and I'm all right, page 19, E14, it's this road or that road, and I would do my whole mapping the night before, and oh, was that fun.
Yeah.
So I get a little bit of what you're saying. So how long did you last at AWS, and was that the last role you had at AWS?
No. Tom ended up retiring at one point, and then I became director of operations, and I ran the AWS welding show myself for a number of years. And as the years went by, I took over more responsibilities. So I was director of expositions, and then conferences and education. So all of that stuff kind of
Hands are full.
Yeah.
Yeah. Did you have a crew helping you? Did you have, yeah?
Yeah, I had a staff, actually 3 departments, so 3 different groups of people.
Oh.
And
So now you are running all by yourself with help, of course.
yeah.
And how does GAWDA, I know, but again, why not ask the guy that runs GAWDA? So before that, what is GAWDA?
So I didn't know anything about GAWDA until we stopped doing the AWS welding show and we partnered with sister associations to create FabTech.
Okay.
And we ran FabTech for a couple of years. And then GAWDA came to us because they were leaving their previous management company of 70 years or 65 years.
Now you are working with FabTech and or the relationship or building or AWS joined the other association to become part of FabTech. So the question was or is, how did GAWDA come about when you were at AWS, or how did you become part of GAWDA?
Yeah. So GAWDA came to AWS looking for an intermittent management company because they were leaving their old management company. And I volunteered to be the interim executive director.
So you already knew a little bit of what GAWDA was when you said, sure, I'll help.
Yeah.
All right, all right.
I knew there were sister associations.
Okay.
And I knew they were basically distributors. The challenge and the thing that I liked about it, though, was the fact that they were coming to us and there was a lot of rebuilding that needed to be done, which
Okay.
I thought was an opportunity to really get some great experience doing these things.
I can see that.
So we got a couple of pallets from the previous management company,
Pallets of what?
old historical documents. We had an Excel sheet of the membership.
Okay.
So from that, we had to build a database. We had to build an accounting system. We had to build a website. Basically, it was
So it's
like
almost
a
like you
scratch
had
start.
to build GAWDA.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was almost like a scratch start.
All right. Well, I'm sure that was exciting. So when you volunteer, and here I am, hey, I'll raise my hand, I'll help. And the other guys were, I'm not sure if retiring or just kind of doing, hey, here. What happened? What did you see in GAWDA that made you not only raise your hands and say, I'll help, but that you saw a future there, or you just did it because you wanted to help at that point?
In the beginning, it's because I wanted to help, but I saw and became friends with the leadership. Great people. I loved the membership. I could see they were salt of the earth. They were really great people. Great organization to work for. So when the moment came where AWS said, well, we're really not a management company, you need to make a decision on what you want to do. And GAWDA decided to go independent.
Okay.
That's when I applied for the job to be executive director, and then basically did the whole scratch start thing again. Moved the operations to Hollywood, started the office, and
So for those that don't know, when he says move the operation to Hollywood, it's from Doral, Florida, I'm assuming,
Right.
to Hollywood, which is 35, 45 minutes north of Doral, depending what time of the day you go. Hollywood, because rent was cheaper, because it would just make more sense, because you were closer to Hollywood.
yes, because I was closer to home.
All right,
So
all right.
I wanted to do the job, but I wanted to do it close to home. I didn't want to have to travel 30 miles to get to an office
Yeah.
when we had an opportunity to start fresh and then do
Right.
it near my home.
Makes sense, makes sense. Now, what year was that? GAWDA at the new location, independent on its own.
2015,
And all right,
yeah.
when you start there in this new office, it's you and who?
Myself, Natasha,
Oh, so Natasha, which now Natasha is,
she is a vice president of operations.
all right, which is your title until how long ago?
Well,
that was your title.
That was part of my title
Yeah.
up until about 2 years ago when Natasha took it over. And Natasha is phenomenal.
She is, and for those of you that don't know her, if you get a chance, you'll know exactly why he's saying that, and the rest of the industry thinks so as well.
Yeah.
So now it's you and Natasha
Yeah.
only?
Well, it was Natasha and I, and then we hired Bruce, and we hired Steve Hill, who is no longer with us.
Yeah,
And then came Andrea Levy,
gotcha.
and then Diana came after
Yeah.
that. So we had basically started everything back up again. We were building up GAWDA, putting educational seminars together, making sure that the regional meetings were covered and the national meetings were growing, and we created strategic partnerships with CGA and other associations. So we were basically really growing GAWDA at that point.
Got it. And again, so I am here's the question. I am a new distributor.
Mm-hmm.
I come from not a welding background, and I run into someone and tells me, you should join GAWDA. How is the sales pitch? And I'm sorry I'm using that word, that sounds kind of weird, but how do you show someone the benefits of being part of GAWDA?
So the short answer is that we are the industry's leading association to help them understand how to network with other distributors, how to network with suppliers, how to stay safe through our partnership with CGA, how to get educational content from all the other sister associations that we partner up with. And basically it's a one-stop shop. You can get everything you need right from GAWDA.
Yeah, it's an amazing organization, and the people and the volunteers and everyone that help, to put the regional meetings together, the spring management meetings, the annual meeting, you really see the dedication from everyone there, being very unselfish about the content they put out there. Sometimes, even sharing their own shortcomings when they were growing their own businesses, and where you think about 5, 10, 20 years ago, most people guarded that so close to their chest, and nowadays they see the value because they're getting the same information back from others and learning from people's mistakes. Unfortunately, that's the way you learn the most. Now, 10 years ago, 5 years ago, where you see GAWDA now, have you seen GAWDA completely grow in a way that it surprised you how fast and how big you guys have come from how you saw it and like, oh yeah, we're gonna grow and that's good, steady grow, or you just went like, bam?
Yeah, well, the big challenge when we first took over GAWDA was maintaining the membership size.
Gotcha.
Because GAWDA at one point was 1,500 members.
Really?
And then the industry started to consolidate. So that number dropped down to almost 450 when GAWDA came to AWS.
Yeah.
So we got it back to right around 500. And consolidation still continues.
It's part of any industry.
Yeah, so that's never going to change, but we've always managed to creep a little bit higher every year.
That's awesome.
Our retention rate is really high. We're in the mid 90% for retention. We always get new members coming in. Even a lot of old members who leave tend to come back.
Really?
Yeah.
And that speaks very highly, not only you, Natasha, Andrea, Bruce, Diana.
Mm-hmm.
And all you have to know about a person is to hear what other people say about that person, not even your own perspective or opinion of that person. And I don't think I've ever run, I travel a little bit for a living, and I run into regional meetings and all kinds of conferences, and I'm giving you a pat on the back. That's basically what I'm doing, because I've never met anyone that doesn't hold John to high standards, because not only did he put himself there, but you guys will see it. You guys know exactly what I'm talking about. The guy, it's cool, and he's by the book, and you have done an amazing job with GAWDA, and I want to congratulate you on that.
Thanks. I was also very fortunate to have a great partnership relationship with GAWDA Media. GAWDA Media was a separate organization.
Oh, really? See, I didn't know that.
Oh, yeah.
Huh.
And they took over our magazine, our newsletter, and they have been key in developing new ways of communicating with our members. The staff there is also phenomenal.
They are. See, and I didn't know that. I thought it was always one-on-one from the get-go. And so now they are. I know they work remotely, right? They don't work out of Hollywood.
Right, they have an office in Syracuse.
Gotcha. But they do have a representative at all the events and build and do a lot of the content that you guys see on their channels, on Instagram, and whatever. They do an amazing job on promoting the industry, and I'm sure you guys have seen it. You know, I'm preaching to the choir.
Bill Broad and his team do a phenomenal job, and you know, for all intents and purposes, they are GAWDA.
Yeah.
You know, they're not a separate organization. Nobody really sees them that way.
Yeah.
So they are 100% drinking the Kool-Aid. You know, love GAWDA, love what they do with GAWDA, and you know, we're happy to have them.
That's awesome. And going to the personal side of things, your personal life, you're married, right?
I am.
And you're married to Cassie,
Right.
that works for
AWS.
AWS. You guys met at AWS?
We did.
All right.
I started working at AWS in 1990. She started in 1991.
Okay.
So we after a little while we started dating, ended up getting married. Now we have 2 beautiful kids. My son Alexander, who's almost going to be 19,
Yep.
and my daughter Alyssa, who's 17, and she is like the sports athletic one.
Yeah. Alexander, you said?
Alexander.
Alexander, you should be here. You know, looking at these whole beautiful waterfalls and in PA. So, you know, you gotta go with the dad and see some things. He sees some cool stuff. So go check him out. Check it out. Now, being married in this industry, and Cassie did or does as much travel as you do now, and growing up in this industry, you know, you're in your 20s, early 30s, and you guys are having children, and was that always tough on the family, or you guys always found ways to just make it happen with smoothly, or was that also a little bit of a, I don't know, it became hard? Was it hard?
In the beginning, it was a little tricky, and I think that's true for any family that's starting out. You kind of figure it out, and once you do, it becomes a little easier.
Yeah.
You know, once the kids are able to walk and talk, and you know, in some ways it's easier, in some ways it's harder.
Correct.
But you know, you kind of find your path, you find your support. It takes a village, and you find your village, and things work out.
And you rely on them. Yes.
Yeah.
I know you love to travel. We've had these conversations before. You know, we love to. One of the reasons why we're here right now and seeing these beautiful places, it's because of the same thing. And we've talked about, hey, when we're in whatever town, you know, maybe we can just go around and check out some things. And here we are. What is it that you like about traveling? Because a lot of, you know, and I'm not going to answer for you, but what is it the one thing that you like most about traveling?
Just to be able to see new places. We go to great places. We go to resorts. So I mean, how lucky am I to be able to do that?
Right? Give me one place that you went there and you said, seen it, I don't need to see it again. And another place where you just went, wow, I can't wait to come back here.
Wow. I don't think I've ever been to a place that GAWDA has gone to that I would say, nah.
See how good he is? Of course he's not going to answer that. So what about on a personal level? Now with GAWDA, on your own personal time, is there a place that, it's not as good as I thought it was going to be?
You know, New Orleans was nice, but probably personally,
yeah, exactly.
Not someplace that I would.
The guy's a politician. He's good. He's good. What about a place that you went and you said, "Wow, this is just blew your mind"?
Well, that's got to be everybody's favorite. Hawaii, Maui's got to be everyone's favorite spot.
What a coincidence! Where is GAWDA'S annual this year?
In Maui.
Right. Which, by the way, I'm going to. Yep. Now, what does it take to plan these regional spring management annual meetings? Is it really, do you guys rely heavily on the board volunteers? And what do they get out of all this extra work? Because it is work.
Yeah. So The operations portion of it, putting the event together, that's all staff.
Okay.
The board and the leadership really kind of guide us through the content. What are the important issues that need to be discussed at these events? You know, what are the touch points that are important each year at these events that we need to cover?
That's a good balance. You know, because you know they're the ones with boots on the ground. You know, they're the ones that really kind of hear more of what needs to happen, or at least what's happening in the industry. So that makes sense. Now here we are in PA. Where do you go next? What's your next travel plans? Where is John going again?
Well, you know, these things always take a lot of planning. So there's a lot of planning meetings that we have to go to before the events. So we're now looking at planning meetings for 2024.
Do you travel to go and sit in these meetings, or is it via Zoom? Is it at the office, or?
No. Yeah, we go to the events because we have an actual planning committee that we put together,
Okay.
and they're the ones who really develop the content. So it's important for them to see the site, to understand where we
The
are.
logistics of everything.
Exactly.
Oh, I didn't know that part either. So that adds even more travel. It's not just the shows per se. Where would you wish GAWDA is in the next 5-10 years?
Well, certainly I hope that we continue to grow and we form strategic partnerships with other associations. You know, there's a lot of educational content that's still out there that we need to tap into.
Yeah.
I think there are other consultants we can pick up over time. It all depends on where the industry is going. We really look at this as what is happening and
You're
how
like
can
water.
we-
You want to just
Yeah,
be fluid, flowy enough to adapt.
exactly.
Makes sense. Makes sense. One of the things that John loves a good whiskey, a good bourbon,
I do.
and who doesn't? And we've talked about this because we live close by, you know, in South Florida, Hollywood, Fort Lauderdale, and we said, hey, you know, we should start tasting some bourbons and kind of come up with our own bourbon club, you know, 3-4 of us, and you know, we came up with some rules and guidelines to do this. And I think we started talking at the beginning of the year. It's like, yeah, you know, I created a Instagram page and these whole things, and we're on. It's on. Show season starts. Traveling, just I don't know what's happened. We haven't been able to meet once to do anything, but we see each other everywhere else except back home.
Yeah.
So I think at some point this year, I hope it happens. Or maybe we're just gonna have to start carrying our own bottles and travel with our bottles and do it elsewhere where we are, wherever that is. I wanna thank you for many reasons, John. Not only for always being friendly and always being approachable, but to do what you guys do to make people like us in my position be exposed to the industry and learn from all this other great content that gets put out, you know, throughout all the meetings here and there, but also giving us a shot at building these relationships and making these friendships that, like I said, I stumbled into this industry 12, 13 years ago, and I don't see myself doing anything else now because of people like John. Thank you again. I told you this was going to be harmless. It's just conversations with friends in the industry on camera, and there's ums, there's pauses, there's all kinds of stuff. You know, there's no script. You know, this is very raw. Look at where we are, very organic, and that's what I'm hoping to put out there. You know, just very organic content, and I love the fact that I get to do it in locations like this, which out of the 9-12 interviews that I have so far, every one of them has been someplace other than a cubicle or an office, and I'm kind of digging that whole thing. And hopefully you guys like the content. If you guys do, like it, share it, talk about it. If you hate it, share it anyway so the other person can hate it too. It's all good. It just means more likes or more views. You know how this thing works. John, thank you again. And now let's go back and have a bourbon.
Sounds great, Frank.